vetted a few times. There's one more that just went out tonight, Don, but we'll hit that next meeting. I guess.
Yes, that's fine. Next meeting is fine on that. Sorry, it got out so late. But
All right. Has everyone had a chance to look at them, and can we get a motion on the meeting minutes?
So which minutes are we voting on?
December 5th, the December 12th, and the 21st.
So I think those were some of the ones he sent out this afternoon.
Yes.
yes,
Yeah, November 21st, December 5th, December 12th.
correct.
All right, that's 11/21.
I move to approve as presented.
Second.
That John?
Yep.
Thank you, John. I will do a roll call. Frank?
Aye.
I do not see Lisa. Brian?
Yes.
Todd?
Aye.
Keitha?
Aye.
Myself, John did. Colleen is not on. Chris, Mark?
Aye.
John Miller is not on. Don?
Yes,
And Emily?
Yes.
All right, so moved. Okay, Winchester High School updates. Meg, did you hear from them? Is there anything we have talked about?
I have not.
Okay,
That was just a placeholder.
yes, I just didn't know if they got back
Yep.
with something they want to discuss. All right, moving
No, I
on
think
to,
they're busy with snow removal.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Moving on to Lynch, MSBA correspondence, Vivian.
Yes. Hi, everybody. I just want to give you a really quick update. Since last time that we met, that we mentioned that the MSBA board voted on December 21st of 2022 to increase funding to the Lynch Elementary School project. And since then, we have had a revised project scope and budget agreement sent forth from the MSBA and all the associated exhibits that go along with contractually entering into agreement with the MSBA for the next phase. Those set of documents were forwarded over to the town and Ms. Rudolph, as well as others in town, and looking to have those completed once legal counsel has reviewed and signed off on it. So that has been our latest communication with the MSBA. And since the vote has occurred with the project for in the town of Winchester and it's been approved, very excited, we are moving forward with the second phase, which is design development on towards construction documents and issuing bid documents, going out to bid and further into construction and closeout. So the next half or the next phase in the project evolution is design development, where we will be entering into now. I want to take a moment if there's any questions in regards to any MSBA correspondence.
Vivian, as an update, all of the documentation that was sent to the town has been executed on this town side and
Awesome.
been returned to the MSBA.
Perfect. And you guys did it well within your time frame. So I anticipate any day now by the end of the month, hopefully the MSBA themselves will fully execute and return in a fully executed contract to the town.
Okay, good.
I'd like to just remind members who maybe weren't with us last meeting. So all those documents that are coming in that are executed, you can find in your Module 5 folder on the project drive if you're interested.
So I'll check in with the MSBA tomorrow to see what the status is and when we can expect a fully executed contract.
Okay, that would be great because I actually need that as part of our requirements letter that we have to give to bond counsel. So that would be very helpful.
Sure. Absolutely.
Any other questions for Vivian? Okay. Moving on to B, swing space update, and Vivian.
Yep.
And it looks
We
like Meg and
did-
Tepe.
Yes, we did have a RFP out for swing space, the modulars. We received several proposals, reviewed all of them, as well as interviewed the 3 submissions. And based off of the interviews, their pricing and what time frame and schedule they were able to provide for the project, we went forward and selected with the town and a few members of this committee, Triumph Modulars. We did have a kickoff meeting earlier today to start the project, and where we discussed such things as logistics plan and how the Triumph team will put together a logistics plan where we'll not only share with you as well as residents and abutters, as well as what their plans are for dust mitigation, noise mitigation, hours of operation, and all of the like. We will forward a milestone schedule once we receive it from them and include it as part of the overall conversation and the project moving forward. That's really all I have as an update, unless Meg and Tape, if you wanna, Charlie, if you wanna contribute.
So briefly, I do have the signed contract back from Triumph. I received that this afternoon, as well as their payment and performance bonds, their certificate of insurance, and we will get that fully signed. The town will have to provide, once the modular units are up and installed and furnished, the town is going to have to provide certificate of insurance back to Triumph, as well as Maya, our municipal insurance agent, is going to have to, create a new policy to cover those units during the 2 years. Hopefully it's a wash for the Lynch school coming off, but just an FYI on all that.
Thank you, Meg. Charlie, anything you want to?
Well, I mean, can I share a screen? I mean, I have the, everyone may have already seen this. I'm just not sure. So, everyone's seeing that, right? So so there's the famous Parkhurst. Has everyone seen this drawing? Because if they have, we don't need to linger on it, but that's essentially, give or take, the project that's getting built. That's what they effectively based the bids on. So that's the 60+ spaces up on the softball field, and a new ramp that comes down, which will be a pre-manufactured ramp. It's not a sidewalk, but it's an accessible ramp that comes down to the front of it comes down to the Andrews Road end of the modulars. You can enter from that end. There's also a ramp at the of what is really the north, but the right-hand end of the modulars as well to get in. And you can see where the existing school is. So most of the kiddos who get dropped off up here are going to come down and around, and then probably if they go into the Parkhurst, they're going to enter through the main entrance, which is there now. We've maintained some spaces down below, but obviously most of the spaces are up above. So other than that, I don't have much to add. I mean, these are new units, and they're going to ship. They're supposed to show up. They're going to beginning work in April, we hope, for
beginning mid-March, early April for the parking lot,
right.
Based off of their preliminary schedule. And then in the early summer, have all of these started, the modulars themselves.
And then we're also working at the same time on this little Parkhurst upgrade project, which is supposed to be a budget of $500,000. And that I think we've really talked about before too, but a little bit of site work on the lower parking area, tech and power to some of the classrooms. Don't have it on the upper floor right now, new flooring to some of the classrooms that need it, limited patching and painting, updated stair railings. I think we've already talked about that, but that's the other aspect to this project is a parallel project. It'll be procured through normal old design bid build, and the idea is to have those documents ready to go the end of February and bid it in April. The end of February and bid it in March, so that by spring break, hopefully we have a contractor, and that means after the spring break, when the district moves out, they can get going.
Charlie, question. one of the contractors had shown a different route for the ramp. Was it that worth looking at? They were bringing the ramp to the front, or was it too steep?
I think it's too steep, but I mean, obviously we're all ears. I mean, we're open to anything anybody wants to recommend as long as it meets code.
Frank had a question.
Not a question. I just wanted to thank Charlie and the Hill team for, I know there are a lot of things that can go wrong between now and then, but I love seeing that construction made a July date and, having a little bit of room to hopefully get some people who are pretty anxious about what it's going to look like. We can get them in there a little earlier or get them some tours or whatever. But like I said, I know a lot can change, but I really appreciate the push on the timeline.
I have a question, Dave.
Yes.
What kind of coordination that we are anticipating, or maybe between the modular contractor and the Parkhurst upgrade contractor, and what do we sort of look ahead? We have in mind that they would work together. I'm not, with the limited site. Just asking.
We'll put something in the specs that says that there's two contractors on the site at the same time. But beyond that, they shouldn't run into each other too much. There is a little bit of work for the modular contractor in the Parkhurst.
Mhm.
So they have to get fire protection, connection for fire protection and a connection for technology. So I think we need to tell the Parkhurst contractor that they need to work collaboratively, which is always in these specs anyway, sort of standard language. Work collaboratively with the owner's contractor, which is in this case the modular contractor. So hopefully they don't get into any fistfights over turf during the course of construction, but I wouldn't think so. But other than that, I mean, the only other thing is going to be parking. So there's going to be a little bit of a dance around parking, and modular people are going to stage the modulars up on this. They're going to do the new park. They're going on the new parking lot in part. Well, they want to get ahead of it, but they also are doing it in part so they can stage the modulars up there. So the tricky bit, I think, is going to be in April and May and into June, when we have three different things going on. We have a school, we have a modular contractor doing site work, and we theoretically have a Parkhurst contractor trying to get into the building. And we may want to talk about whether there's any other places for contractor parking or anything like that. I don't know. The good thing is the modular contractor is not going to be taking the lower parking lot probably till school's out. So that's still going to be there for school to use. It's more the fact that we need a place for the Parkhurst contractor to park and make deliveries. And they're not making giant deliveries. They're not bringing in concrete or steel or anything like that. So it should be a pretty modest amount of construction traffic. Nonetheless, there will be some deliveries, and there's no obvious other place for material deliveries other than the front.
Storage and the trailers, maybe. Are they asking?
I think we could have preschool staff park out back and on that on the street if we needed to. There's a rear entrance. Some of them do now anyway. So and we'll be out of there. So I think we could figure that out.
Okay.
Frank, Lisa's trying to get in. If you can resend.
Will do.
Thank you. Any other questions for Charlie on the floor plan and the site? Okay. Conservation Commission update on the well field, Meg.
So we kind of put it on hold for just a little bit with VHB because we were working with, the Mass EEP office to see if we did indeed need to file a MIPA filing, an ENF. And after going back and forth on it, it does appear that a MIPA filing will be required. So we are scheduling our pre-filing call with them, and now we'll get that scheduled, and then we'll get the NOI prepared and get that on the Concom agenda.
You know when the call would be?
I don't. Yeah, I haven't heard back yet from them. So they have like a place on their webpage that you have to go to sign up for pre-filing call. So it's not even like you're talking to anybody. It's their MIPA booking page that you have to go to. So just waiting to get confirmation back on that. It's our hope that it's just a procedural ENF, and we don't have to go any further than that. So.
Any questions for Meg on that?
I have one to Meg, maybe. Last time when Meg brought the update, I suppose TAPE was going to put together the plan of the well field on the site plan. I was wondering when the town received that. Remember, Meg, we talked about VHP cannot do it, and TAPE was going to do it for a town.
Yeah. I don't know if I don't believe the site plan has been updated, but if I think like Charlie's pointed out before, it is there. It's just not really easy to see on the documentation.
Charlie was going to do it for us, right? Remember?
So we're talking about showing the wells as we know them on the existing plan or the proposed plan?
Well, I mean, once we laid on the existing plan, automatically proposed plan, might change, but I think we want to see it at least, the very least on the existing plan, I think.
Okay, well, I think that's available. I think Meg, VHP has already done that, right?
Yes, and I believe the survey, I mean, is the survey, Niche's survey, pick them up?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
The only thing we have not put it on is the proposed plan, which we can do.
Okay. Because filling the wells within the footprint of any building or any site work.
No, it's just, there's no existing fields close to the building.
Right.
So, or to any, as far as I know, to any, well, we'll have to confirm that. But as far as I know, not close to any of the site development either.
Okay.
But we can certainly confirm that.
Okay, I thought, all right, that was my question, Meg. If you do get it from Charlie, if you can circulate, that would be good. My other question, I guess, whether we need a MIPA or ENF, I guess the first thing is to file the ENF anyway, when that's going to, do you know when that would be done by VHP? And I thought there's a two-way approach for ENF in terms of if there's a question about the MIPA, if you file a detailed ENF or something, then the MIPA becomes easier. I mean, that permitting is it's not my field, but I have heard it by sitting in other meetings. I was just wondering.
Well, I hope to learn what would be the most expeditious, path forward when we have our pre-filing call, which that has not been scheduled yet. So as soon as it is scheduled, I can let everybody know. But yeah, once we hear from them and we get their direction, then I'll update the committee.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
So we were going to then talk about the Lynch Conservation Commission aspect.
Correct.
So this slide, a lot of this slide we've already presented. It was the timeline that showed activity relative to Concom starting in May of last year and going through November of last year. And this it's modified a little bit to reflect actual dates because some of it was projected previously. So as of November 21st, there was a walk on site and there had been a actual presentation to the Conservation Commission in October. And of course, we had submitted a preliminary riverfront analysis in June. They had come back with comments. We had resubmitted in August. They then came back and said they wanted us to do it a different way. That was discussed on site. So the niche is now working already on making more updates per the request of the commission. And that is going to be happening in the next month or two. And obviously, we're also beginning to prepare for the ultimate NOI, notice of intent, which is going to be using some form of advanced design development drawing. So that would put it somewhere in the late spring. Obviously, the Conservation Commission will be apprised of when well in advance, but they're also going to be getting updates in advance of that as well. So that's where we are with that.
Okay. Any questions for Charlie? All right. PV canopies. Charlie, you're on again.
Yeah. So one of the things that Mark and the Sustainability Committee had asked for is a kind of update on what the proposed canopies might look like. This slide is just coming right off of the public meeting slide, so there's no news here other than this is really what was kind of presented to the public. And just as a reminder, I think the one thing we've added is the assumption is procurement's going to be through a power purchase agreement, but there will be something like 1,700 square feet to be confirmed of panels in the actual base contract. So that's the working assumption right now. And some of this is going to be on the ground and some of it's going to be on the roof. The Zapotec study was completed in the fall, and there were 4 options presented. This is option C, which generally seemed to be the one that was most favorably received. And this has 3 arrays. I'm only talking now about ground arrays that are on canopies. There were 3 arrays in the western parking lot, 1 over the outdoor classroom in front of the building, and then 3 canopy arrays down to the south side of where the play area is. So we're sort of framing the play area with this plan. And we're loading up the parking lot over to the left, which is on the west. And these are all generally facing south. So this array, this design, to as far as we know so far, along with the roof, which isn't shown here, would theoretically give us the kind of performance that we're looking for. This shows another option which came out of those discussions, which was a question about, should we try to do something on the north side of the building? There's some area over there. Maybe you could have another canopy that's over another outdoor classroom that sort of overlooked the field. Would that be a good idea? So Zapotec did a quickie study of that. And this is that study. And you can see here, this is the north array over above the building. It is in shadow. And so you lose production, obviously, by being, you lose efficiency by being in shadow. And so, you have just off the top of 5%, 5.5% loss from the shadows. The other concern is that this will be a less efficient array than the other arrays, so that to get to where we needed to get to in terms of the net zero goal, it might push the project over. So there's a fine line here where where Zapotec is trying to get to net zero for the building, meet the building's production needs, but not exceed a certain size, which would trigger having to have on-site storage via a battery. And so it's obviously the least efficient option in terms of a canopy array. It's less efficient than the other ones, which are not in shadow. So that was a request, and so that was that little study we did, or Zapotec did on our behalf.
I chime in with a comment here, Jay,
Yeah.
just before Charlie goes to the next slide.
Yeah.
So since I think I was chiefly the one making that request for this study, so Charlie, I want to thank you and the team for looking at it. I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze to put something on the north side, but for all the reasons that that you said, but I appreciate the analysis, and I think on the quantitative side, being aware of that 500 kilowatt, sort of trigger point is important to me. So no sense in sort of pushing this further. I think there'll be some great opportunities for, for site work and landscaping and engagement with the fields on the north side of the building, even without an array over there. So,
well, there's nothing stopping us if you wanted to, and I'm not sure if you do or you don't. There's nothing stopping you from having some sort of a covered open structure back there. If for kids staying out of the weather, or spectators staying out of the weather, you would just have to tell us that was something you're interested in exploring.
I appreciate it. That's also a good point.
And you have a question?
Sorry.
Yeah, just can you remind us again, Charlie, what triggers the need for the on-site battery storage?
Size, system size.
Not electrical generation output, but system like
size.
Surface areas of the panels?
Yeah, apparently, yeah.
Interesting. I would also, it would seem to me it would be advisable to avoid having to accommodate the battery for collection of reasons. But.
Agreed. And the fact of the matter is, so all of this is going to get tweaked. None of it's probably going to get tweaked for months, because we need to design the building to the degree to which we can really get a truly credible energy model, and really figure out what our production need is, really figure out what our loads are, and then finally tweak this sort of solar design that we're looking at. And I think the bones of it are in place and are great. And we'll just be, I think, nibbling around the edges to refine it further based on that preferred option, which was C. But that we're not going to do for quite some time. But in the meantime, there's no real reason to have an inefficient array out there. We might as well be in the sun, not the shadow. And again, given that we have the opportunity to, if we want to do some sort of a canopy out there, it doesn't have to be a solar canopy. It could just be a canopy.
Thank you for looking at it, Charlie.
Yeah. So the other thing was the desire to see what all of this might look like. And explicitly, the request was to see it from the ground and see it like you were a human being. So that's coming. But this gives you sort of an overall from an airplane of what's going on. So there's the 3 arrays on the left-hand parking lot, which is to the west, which is really adjacent to service and to the gym. There are the arrays that are to the south of the play area and the little turf field. And there is the array over the outdoor classroom. And then, of course, there's also the array over the outdoor roof. Now, the rest of this is going to be covered with solar panels as well, but we're not showing that in this rendering. The purpose of the rendering was to show the roof and then these ground-mounted canopies. So more from a person perspective, this is as if you were driving in from the west on the entrance drive. So you're seeing the canopies to your left in that parking lot. You're seeing the cafeteria beyond you. You're seeing the gym in the far distant left-hand side. So that's that view of seeing those canopies with the cars. And this is more of the experience of it being in the parking lot and being under the canopies, and you're seeing kind of the service side of the building over here. And then if you swing around a little bit towards the front of the building and look at the entrance, you begin to see that sort of curving array that's below the little turf field. And there you see full-size soccer goals, which will not be, I think, put out there on that field, but that's okay. And it's a little artistic license there. And also, I'm not sure we're going to have that many stacked up big buses. Nonetheless, you get a sense of those arrays to the south of kind of the big open space, which is kind of like a big green, essentially, big village green for the school. And this is a nice kind of framing of it at the south end of it. So I think it's kind of an elegant solution. And then if you come all the way over and turn your back again, as if you were coming in from the east, you see that curving array now on your left instead of your right, and you see the building in front of you. And then if you get close to the building to kind of where the pre-KK drop off is, you can see that array to the left, and you can see the outdoor classroom there on your right, close to the building. And the theory is we're going to have PVs on top of that. And the exact character of this thing we're not sure of yet, but the idea is that you can have solar panels that can possibly be semi-transparent that let light in on top of an outdoor classroom. And again, none of this has been programmed. None of this has been truly designed yet, but that's the concept, is that this is a sort of a standalone element that sort of shows off the panels. And we may be able to show it off to greater effect as we move forward, but you begin to see that. You also, in the corner up there, begin to see that roof that also has panels on it, that are also the semi-transparent panels that let light in, that allow that to be kind of an outdoor classroom up there. And then if you're coming in from the east, you really see this is the pre-K wing on the first floor, the pre-K wing on the first floor, and up there on the third floor, you're seeing that kind of those semi-transparent panels. The structure here is heavy, and the structure is heavy because we're intending to actually erect structure that could become the support for an addition if an addition was ever placed up there. So we're thinking that we're going ahead and actually structuring the third floor there. So if the town ever decided they needed those classrooms, you'd strip off the solar panels and you'd put on proper deck. And you would complete these walls and put in windows, but the structure would already be there, which is a pretty efficient way of having an addition laid out. But anyway, that's what you begin to see up there. So it is heavy, but we don't think it's going to be too bad in terms of kind of visual appearance, because we've brought the walls up well above the ground so that they act as solid kind of guards. And they come up kind of to sill height. And so if in the end, ultimately you could build up those walls, put windows in and the like. And for now they enclose that outdoor space. So there's that outdoor space. You can see the kind of panels, the possibility of some light coming in, those fairly heavy I-beam sections that would be painted with, we think. And some kind of, I'm not sure it's going to be a lavender farm up there, but again, another artistic license. But the idea, we could have some, so it reminds you of Provence, I'm sure.
We'll make tea.
Where I've never been, but the thought is that you could have some raised beds and some planters if you like, or you could just have it be space for science experiments or even just outdoor learning. You could put some whiteboards on the wall. There's all kinds of things. And again, none of that's been programmed. You could have some tables and chairs that were rugged enough to be left out in the rain or not. But that's kind of the theory behind that space. And obviously we have a long way to go, but it gives you a concept of it. So that's what I have for the solar. Chris, you have a question?
I do. Do you mind maybe going back 2 slides, Charlie?
Oops, I went back.
Yeah, there we go. So you said something I think that was really important, and I have to be mindful if, how much of this perhaps we want to share on the project website. You had said earlier, a lot of this is just months away before we really begin to develop it. And you also noted that these should not be, when we're looking at the canopies in your earlier slides, not to take the character of those literally. So do you have what I love about this image is it just shows how significant an architectural element the canopy is on the building. Mm-hmm. Do you envision Charlie, that as a concept needs to proceed to some significant point in design development before there's really any sort of additional effort towards the architectural design and character and materiality of the canopies themselves? Or do you feel like those can just sort of be a completely different sort of design language? And I'm asking because, you know, everybody likes to consume images, but those canopies might look like that. They might look very different. And I want to be sort of careful about, you know, how we describe those.
Well, so the building one clearly is going to be integral to the building, so that has to get designed now. The ones that are on the ground do not have to be designed now, and are in fairness, with the exception of the outdoor classroom piece that we have to figure out pretty quickly,
Right.
well, because we're building that. So we theoretically own in the base bid. We know we own in the base bid this canopy up above, and we think we own in the base bid the outdoor classrooms kind of roof. The rest of them, if we go a PPA, the rest of them are going to be probably part of that PPA. So they follow. I mean, obviously their locations, their size, and their performance have to be established well in advance of that, and probably exact precise locations in case we are running out either empty conduit or cable, and possibly foundations and footings. So all of that has to get figured out. But for now, what we will be most focused on is the stuff that's actually next to or connected to the building.
And thank you. And then do you envision kind of a similar design language, given how much of the canopy you can see, for instance, from this view? Do you imagine kind of a similar design language architecturally between this and like the canopy right there at the front of the building?
You mean just a normal canopy?
Yeah, the one right by the entrance, or is it a little too early to
No, I think that, well, I mean, that's the perfect, we don't really have an image of it. I mean, it's right there,
Yeah.
right? So you mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would be sensible.
Okay.
I love that wing. I mean, I love the design of that curved canopy.
The thing in the back is pretty
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, I think that's cool. And I really like how it brackets this outdoor space, because that really does feel like this thing really does feel like a big town green, or you know, it really, I think, is a outdoor community space for the school, which is kind of cool.
And outdoor kitchen, I'm sorry, Keith, I've got some big questions that need to be answered here. Outdoor kitchen on the outdoor classroom, you thinking that too? Grills and, not the outdoor classroom, but the second floor, third floor.
I'm leaving that to the powers that be to
Make
give
sure
us,
that's in
to
the,
give us
we
direction.
just make sure we get gas up there, that's all I'm saying.
Unfortunately, there's no gas to this building, so we're stuck.
You can't cook with solar.
No, I think you got a problem there, Frank. Geetha, yeah.
I just had a question, I guess, Charlie, Jay, and Chris. I guess the setback distance of the solar canopy on the building is taken into consideration from the get-go, correct? In other words, from the edge of the building, they stay back a certain distance from the lessons learned at the high school.
Yeah, it's a code issue. How far they have-
What are we talking about having? You mean
Falling
you're talking
snow.
about just the
On the
panels on the roof itself?
Yes, solar
Yeah.
panel.
So the layout we had done, the ultimate layout, the one we did, and then the Zapatec based their work on, had setbacks from the edge of the building.
Okay, because the visual that we kind of saw, it didn't kind of depict that. I was just
Yeah, well,
wondering.
sort of that roof drawing, this doesn't really show any panels. So we haven't shown them here at all, but this is all gonna be covered with panels, but it also, by the way, is covered with walkways and other things. So there and, you know, possibly elevator overrides and stairs and the like. So, but the actual Zapatec study did consider, I mean, I don't think, did that drawing?
It's at Charlie. You know
This
what?
shows this shows just a little bit of what they had done in terms of setbacks and stuff. You see those dashed lines, we had set it back there. And then in terms of this roof, it actually is set back as well, so that you theoretically could set a ladder up. I mean, you could set a ladder up on these little bays in theory, because the columns come up at the inner part of the bay, I believe.
Charlie, that Zapatec drawing you're referring to is actually on the project website, Gita. If you go to the design page, about halfway down the design page, there's a little image of that site plan. And Zapatec actually, maybe it's a little confusing. They drew like a really, really fat gray, like polyline. That's, I think, supposed to represent the setback. It actually looks like a really thick parapet wall, but I think that's what they intended that to show.
That's okay. So along the line of thought, what do we have to learn? Let's say the parking lot canopy and how do I phrase this? So how do we circumvent the design issue of the pitch in terms of handling sort of the falling snow and whatnot? And, the Lexington, I think Jay told me then I was driving by, but I have stopped by there, and what have we learned from them as far as, the pitch that is allowed minimum and what's the height? Just curious. In other words, if there's going to be a falling snow, how can we handle that with the parking lot solar canopy?
So you're asking about, you're asking about this pitch.
Yeah.
Yes. In other words, something I don't know the answer, just wondering. Obviously, the pitch is who the consultant we had is they were talking about the exposure to the sun, right? The pitch it needs to have so that you can get the sun. I'm asking the question, is there an issue about falling snow also on the parking lot solar canopy, and how do we circumvent that?
Well, we're going to defer to Zapatec for the design of these, the technical design of these, and I will certainly ask them that question. I don't know the answer.
Most of the time from experience, Keith, the snow doesn't pile up. You're thinking it's going to roll down and fall off like a roof. But because it's cold underneath also, most of the time it just melts.
Okay.
And the panels are not solid together. There's gaps, so it starts melting and going between the panels. You usually do not see a big pile up of snow at the ridge line of like it all slid off of the canopy.
I haven't visually seen it, Jay. I almost thought of driving to the Lexington school, but I couldn't make it this weekend. But it would be curious.
No, it's a good point. Yeah.
All right.
You could also see it in Watertown if it's a little bit more convenient for you. The Hosmer Elementary School has very similar setup.
Any other questions on the PV? No. Next one is Charlie, also design development.
I think that we had just wanted to say that we were proceeding with the project now that that it's been approved, and this again is has the schedule from the public meetings presentation. So many of you have seen it multiple times, but the kind of design phase, which we did begin in December, we did that first piece of design development in December. Which was great for us because it didn't result in you all seeing a whole lot of work out of us, but in fact, we did do a lot of work. We did all the kind of internal stuff that we do one way or the other behind the scenes, like sort out this model and work on the plans and try to get the square footages correct, which allowed us to kind of hit the ground running in January. So it's actually been great. And so design is going to go from really this year up until about September, at which point we're going to be bidding with the intention of getting the bids back before the holidays, hopefully in November, and having the contractor mobilized in December and construction start in January, which is consistent with what the schedule has been for a while. That assumes moving students in September to the Parkhurst, and then construction duration is through till the middle of 2025. So there's no news there. That's just a graphic of it. The design development piece for us at the most high level is this, which is working on this through March, essentially, or through much of March. And the one big milestone we're excited about is doing the programming with the staff and the teachers, which hopefully we think is going to be the week of February 6th. We threw out today the possibility with Christy and Frank of, I think I think it was the 8th and the 9th, but I don't think that's been confirmed. But if we can do that, that's going to be terrific. That will be remote as it was last time, and that we can gather with all the educators and really talk through the details of the spaces and really get more input from them as end users. And what we're working on right now is really a cost estimate set. So that's the set of drawings that will go to PM&C and to AM Fogarty, which is Vivian and Hill's estimator. At the end of, we have it as 2/22 right now. And then the estimate's going to take 3 weeks. We want the estimate completed, we say here 3/16, but somewhere in that range. So mid-March, which allows us to reconcile by the 3rd week in March between the two estimators, and then prepare final documents for the MSBA submission of the design development so that we can get that in. And we were saying 3/28, which is, I think, consistent with Hill's overall project schedule. And there is, as there always is, a lot of work just in this purple bar around preparing, you know, the documentation for the MSBA, which is kind of separate from doing the design. It's really just all the supporting documentation they ask for. So that's a pretty big lift in parallel to wrapping up the documents. So when we submit to the construction, to the estimators, we're still only, you know, 2/3 of the way through. So then we still have 1/3 of our drawing left to do before we get to the actual submission. So the design piece doesn't really stop. We just continue. So this all seems achievable. This is the plan. This is the roadmap, and that's where we are for the next phase.
Mark had his hand up earlier. Do you still have a question, Mark?
No, I was just going to ask about the cost estimate, and you showed it on the last slide. So.
Okay. Great.
So that's it for us.
Right. We have payments and authorizations next. There were 2 that went out this afternoon. Chris, you going to bring those up?
You're on mute.
Sorry, I forgot I was muted. I'm looking for those now, Jay. What do you have a particular order that you want to address these in?
Let's do the letter first, and then we'll do the addition that went out afterwards.
Okay. So I'm looking for 3 p.m. I think that's when that went out. Yeah, I got it. So bear with me here and I'll share. Why don't I see it? I should be seeing it. Oh, there it is. Sorry. Okay. You see that, Jay?
Yes.
I'm sorry about that. Meg, can you see that?
Yep. So we have for payments, we have 2 invoices each from Tape and Hill for December and January invoices. And you can see them there listed out. And copies are behind that. And then for the spending authorizations, we have Tape's amendment number 4, which is for now that the vote has passed, is for the rest of the project at $6,230,000. Then Hill International's amendment to R is the amendment that is for the modular work. And then amendment number 3 is for Hill's remaining work at $2,374,950. And then we have an invoice there for Frida's hours for $428.05. Any questions?
It looks like the numbers were right in line with the original spreadsheet, correct?
Yes. So yes, the original budget that was put forth.
Brian
These were the numbers that were proposed all along.
Brian, you have a question?
Yeah, I think that would essentially just answer my question, just because these are quite large authorizations. I just wanted to make sure that the team collectively had the time to tick and tie it, because I haven't, but it sounds like the numbers are what we expected, and so we're in good shape and in a position to vote on it today. Everyone would
Yeah,
agree with that?
they're right where they were on the total project budget.
Yeah.
I did have one question, and maybe Vivian, you're just being generous and giving us like $200. On the 3011 that just came through from the SBA, your total number is 2,394,000. 2,394,950. Your amendment 2R is for almost $20,000. So is the idea that that 2R is the 20 that comes out of the 2,394,000?
Yes.
Okay.
So the 2R is first, which would be for the Parkhurst, that amends the contract initially. And then the second half, number 3, carries that over.
Yeah.
As
So I
well
think you're-
as a beginning feasibility phase.
I think you're shorting yourself by $250, but you can look into that later, or we appreciate the gift.
Yeah, $250 is.
Yeah, I mean, I think all in you were at 2,394,950 is my point.
It's fine.
Okay.
Yes. And the reason for the revision is simply it was a typographical error that we picked up on the date of the amendment. So Vivian just revised it so that our paperwork is all in order. So that's really the only reason for the revision.
I move we authorize the town manager to pay the Tappy Architects and Hill International invoices as outlined in her January 23rd memo, and to authorize the town manager to accept the Tappy amendments and the Hill International amendments, and Frida's invoice for supporting spending authorizations in the memo.
I'll second that.
Roll call. Frank,
Aye.
Lisa,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Todd,
Aye.
Keitha. Okay, John,
Aye.
Colleen's off. Chris, Mark,
Aye.
Emily.
Yes.
All right, so that moved, and we have one more that came out.
I'm bringing that up right now, Jay.
Yeah.
Faster on this one. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, so this is for, after our meeting with Eversource, we decided that it was better. So Eversource, we have to bring power to the modulars. It requires a new separate transformer. So it's much cheaper to put poles up for this. And as there are no existing poles there now, we would have to add poles up Emerson and Samoset. So this proposal is to do a property line survey, because if we put the poles on school property, no other utility can attach to those poles. And the idea is that when this project is over, we would like to be able to remove the poles. If, however, they were to be on right-of-way property, other utilities could go on there, and if they're on there, they can no longer be taken down. So the $4,000 is to have Niche perform additional property line survey that was not included in their original contract.
And Meg, this image here sort of describes that. You're just saying basically along this corner of the site.
Yep. All the way up to the Horseshoe parking lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm happy to wing it and make a motion to approve contract amendment number 1 for Niche Engineering, an increase of $4,000 for additional survey work to accommodate utility poles.
To be
Second.
clear, it's an amendment to Tape's contract. Niche is there. I believe, is that true, Charlie? Or
It is.
Or
It
am I
is.
gonna-
I mean, I'm fine. We're fine if you want to procure it directly. I mean, that doesn't matter.
I could do that.
It's entirely up to you. It would save.
I'm just referring to what the document says, just so we're clear on what
Well,
it is.
that's their amendment. Yeah.
That's their amendment
That's
to
that.
Charlie.
It has nothing to do
Yeah.
with you guys. That's just what he sent to me. This is just literally his proposal sheet. So that was related to the fact that they'd already done Parkhurst surveying that hadn't included the scope. So they're calling it their amendment 1 to this particular survey.
Well, would you rather just make an amendment to Charlie's contract, Meg, and we do it that way?
I think it would be clean.
It would be cleaner. Yeah, it would keep
Right.
everything all in one.
So I withdraw my motion. I'll make a new motion that we,
I have a
amend-
question though.
What's
Where's
that?
the money coming from? Is it from the contingency? I just asking. This money, because it was active.
Well, what it'll most immediately come from the line item associated with designer reimbursable costs.
Okay,
The only reason it would ever come from contingency is if we exceeded the amount that's in that particular allotment and had to actually transfer some money from one
From the contingency
area
to
to another
that line
area of the budget.
okay, so the Lynch and Parkhurst are combined together for the reimbursable line item, correct?
They are, yeah, I mean, it's one appropriation, so it's all being
Okay,
treated as one
okay.
budget.
Okay,
I mean, the most confusing part of it is the fact that some of it was voted at Springtown meeting and some of it was voted at Falltown meeting, but
Yeah.
well, in terms of appropriation, yes, on our end. Yeah. So can it just be as simple, Meg, as a motion to amend TAPE's contract and increase of $4,000 to accommodate additional survey work on the Parkhurst site as presented?
Yes. Yep.
So moved.
Second? Anyone?
Don.
Second.
Mac? All right, Frank,
Aye.
Lisa,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Todd,
Aye.
Etha,
aye,
John,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
and Emily.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Next meeting dates, we have the 25th, which is during the day. What do you think? It's gonna be about 2 hours, Chris?
Well, I think that was Charlie's doing. I think he had booked out 1 to 3. That's posted as a full meeting. Everybody's welcome to come. And Charlie, your plan, I think everybody should already have that agenda. It is posted on the town calendar. Actually, I'll stop sharing this for a minute in case I can pull it up. But there is an order. I really should have been thinking ahead. I'm sure I can find this quickly. There is an order to the event. Yes, I think I just found the agenda. Yeah, there we go. So let me just I'll blow this up so you can see it and I'll share it. Charlie had an order of events in mind. Yeah, so there you go. Wednesday. Frank, we should just double check with Andrew that panelist links are going out. So it looks like we got mechanical followed by electrical and then plumbing and fire protection with some time for Q&A with everybody along the way. Welcome to come to the whole thing or a piece of it if you like. This is not going to include, site civil, but that'll come later once we kind of get that figured out. We blocked out 2 hours for this. And although Magda Lalick is not formally presenting, she will be there for this whole presentation and discussion with us as well. She's our sustainability consultant. Did I miss anything, Charlie, or is that right?
that is right. I mean, there's one typo in here. Mike Doyle's actually not from Griffith and Berry, but that doesn't matter.
Oops. Sorry. I will fix that.
He's from IMEG.
Thank you. Yeah, so that's for Wednesday.
And we have another meeting on the 6th scheduled for February and would like to do the 27th because we'll have some bills to be paid if that works for everyone after February vacation.
I'm available on the 27th.
Okay. All right.
Are there enough people here to sort of, for most people, do you feel like you could make the 27th if we kept it? I mean, it would be less than an hour, I'm sure. Right, Jay?
Correct. Just get the bills
Good.
paid.
Okay. So I can rough out an agenda for the 27th and we'll plan on 6 o'clock.
All right. Anything else we missed? Brian?
This might be an out of scope question for this committee, but I just thought I'd ask it because I thought about it today. So Lynch obviously has a lot of after school activities and things that happen at the school currently, which are going to be impossible to replicate with the modular setup. Is there anything that this committee has any bearing on that would facilitate or could help keep some of that going? I don't think anything with the existing Parkhurst renovations will accommodate any space for any of that after school. So it's totally out of scope for this committee, right? There's nothing that we can or should be thinking about relative to trying to accommodate some of that.
On the school side, Brian, so the rec department runs the after school program there. It's Kidsborough everywhere else, but for other reasons, rec runs at Lynch. But I think, Frank, you've had some conversations with Nick about that. If I can put Frank on the spot, I think there are conversations about how to support that population. I don't think that's happening at Parkhurst. I think that's going to happen at Mystic. Is that right, Frank?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there anything that has to happen from a capital perspective that this committee has a bearing on that can facilitate any of that we should be thinking about? Probably not, right?
I would say if Vivian had some magic dust and we could convince the MSBA that additional yellow buses for transportation were an allowable project expense, that would be awesome. But there's never been any expectation that's the case. So Frank and Andrew have actually been working really hard presenting some initial options at our last 2 school committee meetings, because there's obviously going to be a cost impact for that, which would actually hit our operating budget, not our capital budget. So we've literally the last 2 meetings had quite a lot of conversation, and Andrew's been working really hard to develop different models. Do you just add more buses to the model we have? Do you stagger tiers? Do you stagger start times? I mean, there's all sorts of things out there that I think are consuming the two of them. But there are other, there's community uses of Lynch, and that's what I thought. I wasn't sure if that's what you meant, Brian. Like the School of Chinese Culture, I think uses it on the weekends, and that clearly I don't think it's going to happen at Parkhurst. I don't know if Dr. Hackett's had any conversation with them about that.
No, they've not approached us.
I
And I think that would be tough to do.
Chris and Frank, I thought are you still figuring out where the school department is going to go, or is that being answered as well?
I'm going to see how long Frank keeps his microphone off.
I opened a can of worms here.
I'm turning it on just to see. I'm going to turn it back off.
Well, anyway, when Brian asked, I thought, okay, maybe I can ask that too. But anyway, I was concerned. That's why I'm asking. But
well, in case you're not already aware, so Andrew, the business office is actually already moved out of Parkhurst. So they're at the high school now.
Okay.
But there's some more work for Dr. Hackett to do, and he's working on it.
Okay. So anyway,
Brian, I don't think, but it's not on our plate, Brian, until Frank comes begging, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. Thank you.
the only thing I have from this meeting is maybe the well field overlapping, Meg. That would be great by tapping on the civil survey plan. So
I'll work on getting that. Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Hey, nothing else? No hands? Get a motion to adjourn?
I will,
So moved.
7:09 p.m.
Second,
Thank you. Who was second?
Brian.
Brian, thanks, Brian. All right. Frank,
Hi.
Lisa,
Yes.
Brian, Todd,
Hi.
Geetha,
Yes.
John,
Aye.
Don,
Yes.
Emily.
Yes.
All right, we're adjourned at 7:10, right on the butt. Wow.
Woo!
Nice job. Nice job. Good leadership.
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.
Have a good evening.
Nice
Bye.
meeting. Bye. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Good meeting. Thanks.